Hello, welcome to After Scientology, Straight Up and Vertical, the show where me and Tony Ortega get together every week and kind of discuss what happened in the world of Scientology according to the reporting on Tony's Substack and what we've seen in the general world of media and what Scientology, of course, itself puts out. Hey, Tony, welcome back for another week.
Hey, Chris, good to see you. This time I'm on the other side of you. I'm on the West Coast.
Exactly. How's the weather and everything out there?
You know, it's really nice and warm and sunny now, just like you expect it to be in California. So I've been
Excellent.
spending all my free time out on my bicycle.
Well, I've been enjoying some of your stops at certain Scientology sites and locations out there. I haven't seen them in years, and there you are standing, right across the street from them.
Yeah, I thought, we had jury selection between Monday and Thursday, and Judge Olmedo told us she wanted to see the jury by Thursday afternoon, which seemed awfully fast for me, but she made it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so that gave us 3 days off. So on Friday, I was riding around over the hill into the Los Feliz area and down into Hollywood, and I remembered that new church is right there, Big Blue. So I knew exactly where it was. And I rode over to it and decided just to make a little video out in front. Now, people have asked me, did you see any cars? I did see 3 cars in the parking lot behind it, but I'm pretty sure it's still leased at this point. Scientology has bought this 1925 church on Sunset, just a couple of blocks west of Pac Base, Big Blue, and paid $13.5 million for it. And we're not sure why, but I do remember the realtors literature saying that it's 100% leased. So what that means is somebody's, paid to use that as their offices for a year, 2 years, 3 years, however long the lease is. But what I remember is when in their Ideal Org program, of course, they act like everything's, this, Chris, everything's an emergency, everything's last second, the Sea Org, everything's like crazy, everything's got to be done fast.
Yep.
So in Phoenix, they bought like a mini mall that they were going to turn into their Ideal Org. And there were tenants in there. There were people that had shops.
Yep.
And I remember that, they had leases for like a year to 3 years. So if Scientology had just waited, those leases would have run out. They would have been paid rent the whole time. And then they would have had the building completely to themselves.
Yep.
But instead, it's like, no, we need that building right now. We got to get those people out of there. So they had to buy out those leases and pay a ton of money and kick all those people out. And then the building sat there for 7 or 8 years
Exactly.
before they did anything with it.
Exactly.
So I have a feeling something like that may happen with this Sunset Church. They may not be patient enough to wait for those leases to go out. But whoever is in there, it's not like a storefront. There's no like entrance for the public to go into. So I just rode around it and took some video of it.
Right.
What do you think it might be used for?
Well, I was going to throw this out at you because I'm kind of wondering what you would think of this, but it occurred to me, at first I thought this is not the first time I've heard about Scientology, by the way, owning some property in the vicinity that not everybody knows about. And so I thought, well, this is, maybe one of other purchases they have out and around out there. But I was wondering about front group activity.
Yeah.
And I'm also wondering about I don't know, it's so close to PAC and there's already such an established testing center at the Los Angeles org. I can't imagine they would open up another testing center for the LA org, because that's an extension of organizations that's pretty well established. Seattle has one. Some other orgs have a remote test center. But I was thinking about the front groups, because we haven't heard anything about Way to Happiness in such a long time, and some of the other front groups that could be resuscitated. And it occurred to me, that's a possible use.
Well, they have that little Potemkin village in Clearwater on Fort Harrison Boulevard, where they've got, or Fort Harrison Avenue, where they've got these little, they look like storefronts. And there were what the Clearwater Bank building, that block going north. And they look like little storefronts, and they're for CCHR, Foundation for a Drug-Free World, Way to Happiness Foundation. And, it's Scientology's attempt to make it look like this little happy collection of Scientology subsidiaries. And they're just fronts, really.
Yep. That's right.
So I don't know, do they not have that in LA? Maybe this is it. But then, the other thing that just occurred to me, Chris, because it looks like a church, and the pictures I've seen inside, really nice.
Mm-hmm.
What about if they're trying to make a little more visible their interfaith garbage?
There you go. There you go. Right? What if it was some kind of common hall for something? Even NOI meetings? I don't know. I mean,
interfaith. You bring in the local
absolutely
Baptist minister shill, the local rabbi shill, because they've got those people.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's a vital component in the religious cult world and the major faith world that they ally on things, and you go, what the hell? But you realize there's common cause, because the big churches go, well, if it's going to happen to the little guys first, then it's going to roll up to us. So we're going to make sure none of it happens in terms of legal accountability, financial transparency, tax exemption issues, public policy issues. They ally on this stuff in these interfaith groups. And I think that's the best idea I've heard yet.
That just struck me. I just thought of that when you were talking about it. I bet that's what they're going to do. They're going to bring in some shill Baptist minister, Alfred Johnson kind of guy.
Yeah. And
they're going to put some big meetings in there, and see they're going to do peace rides out of there and stuff.
That's right. And it does look like a church, and that's a setup that they have kind of eschewed for many, many years. And they're buying these historic buildings, but they're not historic religious buildings or church buildings. So they haven't had that imagery and facade necessarily. So it's a perfectly valid point. Oh, right. Good. And then the other thing I wanted to comment on real fast before we get into talking about the jury stuff is the fact that a PAC security guy came by to check you out because you were on the other side of the street from the Valley Org filming over there and clearly talking for a little while when you were doing your video. And then this guy just comes over and he's just like, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah, well, let me describe that situation. Then I want you to tell me what you thought of his behavior, because you are more used to that kind of thing. But so that was Friday. I went by the new the Sunset Boulevard building. Saturday, I knew they were having this convention, 2-day convention. But on Saturday, they had asked the Scientologists to be there from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. And they were bringing in these big whales like Tom Cummins and the Fabos couple and Jim Bridgeport. So again, I was on my bike and I approached it, and I got there about 10. I didn't want to get there right at 9. I wanted to, give them a chance to fill up their parking lot to see. And there's a small parking lot there next to. Mm-hmm. And the first thing I did was I came in by the building to get kind of oriented, and I pulled up next to the building, and there's fencing there, but I could see through the fencing that there were a bunch of Sea Org people. So there was something going on, definitely something going on. And then I noticed the best parking spot in the whole thing is reserved for Nancy C.
Yep.
So I had to take a picture of that because, Nancy Cartwright,
of course,
the voice of Bart Simpson, was the major fundraiser for that project. So it's no wonder that they give her the best parking spot. And then across the street, there's a small lot that was jam full. So the security guard there yelled at me, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I said, "Just taking a picture." And then, but then I rode over to him because he had kind of returned to the parking lot. And I just said, "Hey, full lot, huh?" And all he said was, "What's your name?"
Yeah, that was it. Yep.
"I'm Tony. What's your name?" "Bob." "Are you Sea Org or staff?" He looked at me like, "Sea Org." Okay, cool. And then I could see his supervisor was hurrying over. So I thought, I've probably got as much out of Bob as I'm going to get, and I don't want to deal with the supervisor right now. So I pulled out onto, is it Burbank Boulevard, I think. Mm-hmm. And with the way the sun was, and I just realized, and the how much the field of view of my camera on my smartphone is, I just realized that, probably the best place to get a view with the sun on my back is going to be across the street on the
Mm-hmm.
sidewalk, and that's
Mm-hmm.
best legally. They're not supposed to kick you off of their sidewalk, but they can sort of make it uncomfortable for you. But across the street on a public sidewalk, I knew that there would be nothing they could do about me
Yeah,
filming.
that's right.
And I didn't. I didn't want to. I knew they had these fun stilt walkers out in front, like it's
That's
a
right.
party or something,
That's
and
right.
it's not just a high pressure extortion scheme. And they're trying to act like it's fun. But I decided, and some people ask, why don't I try to go in? Come on, I mean, why go through that stunt? It's not. I just wanted to point out that their parking lot was full and that they had stilt walkers.
Yep.
So again, from across the street, I framed it and just gave a brief overview of the Ideal Org program, because you always have to figure there's viewers that are catching up, and so I wanted to explain why they're bringing these people in to raise money. And I finished with about 5 or 6 minutes, and then put down my smartphone. And right then, this big sort of SUV limo type of thing pulled up, and out get three people. And even though it's across the street, Chris, I know that's Tom Cummins. I mean, I've been looking at flyers of this guy for years. That's Tom Cummins.
Yep.
And so I just went, Tom, like that from across the street. And he looks at me, goes, yo, and then just walks in.
Right.
And I was just so happy I got that. So then I thought, oh, that wasn't on camera. I'm going to say something about it real quick. Made a little quick video. The whole time, all these security guards are over there and they're doing this, And I know but I know what they're thinking. What can we do? The guy's across the street. He's on a public sidewalk. But eventually I saw this guy walk across, and I very quickly set my camera so I would tape him instead of me, and just held my camera up. And I thought he might object, but he never said a word. He knows the game. He knows I can. Again, I'm on a public sidewalk. I can videotape anybody. And you saw the interaction. He was friendly. He
Yep.
asked me if I was a Scientologist. He wanted to know what I was doing there. He wanted to know if I lived in the area, which I thought was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my questions about, what kind of a crowd you have. I saw Tom Cummins. He's a star. It kind of confused him that I knew these things, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But look, no big deal. I was, he was friendly, and he turned around and left. But I guess the number one thing, and other people have picked up on this, I wanted to make sure I got it in my picture. His shirt said PAC security.
It did.
So, I mean, what does that tell you? What does it tell you that he's PAC security? What does it tell you what he was saying to me? Let me know what you think of that.
What I was thinking is that they were providing security for the event because it's a big Ideal West US event. And, it's and Valley Org, the place where you were at, that's just a class 5 org in the area. It's not a Sea Org installation, but that probably means with a bunch of Sea Org that were there, that there might be some bigwigs there. And so, of course, security is going to be an issue for them these days more than ever. And so they have the PAC security, the Sea Org security, which is the next tier down from hiring professionals.
I see.
So that's, I think, why they had him come over there for that.
Right.
Yeah. And I think he was sort of kid gloves with you in terms of his exchange with you. Two things occurred to me. One, I think he was hyper aware of the fact that you had that camera up.
Right.
And he didn't know if you were live streaming or not.
Yeah, that's
right.
true.
So he's like, and the one thing they don't need is more bad PR, right? Especially one of their own out there harassing some guy, right? So pretty sure he was, he had enough, brain cells operating there to put 2 and 2 together to be low key, yet he was still tasked with finding out as much about you as he could. Which is funny because my second question or my second point on this is these PAC security guys must be falling down on the job with their rogues gallery. Remember those? Those binders that they have of all the baddies? You're at the top of that list, right? And the fact he didn't facial recognize you kind of was telling to me. I was actually a little surprised by that.
I don't know. I mean, I was glad that I was on my bike because then I took off and there was no license plate to write down,
Right.
but I figured that I must have been on camera at some point in that, and somebody is. I told him my name was Tony, so
Yeah.
somebody's going to figure it out.
Oh, I'm surprised they didn't figure it out before he came over to you, especially because you had given your name to the other
Yeah,
guy. And no question whatsoever, in that building, somebody was in a window with a camera trained on you.
yeah, probably,
Yeah,
probably.
no question. I've seen him do it lots of times when I was out at orgs and stuff would come up, security stuff would come up.
Uh,
So,
well,
yeah.
that was pretty good. Two for two. I thought both of those went well, and um, we'll see. Next weekend, I'll have some time to cycle around. Maybe I'll go to some other Scientology landmark.
Absolutely.
But I needed it, Chris, because man, that was an intense 4 days. So with the jury selection,
Yeah.
first 2 days weren't too bad, but the third and fourth day, what I tried to do this time that I didn't do last time was try to jot down something of every single interaction Judge Olmedo had with every single juror, potential juror,
Mm-hmm.
so that once we were left with 12, we might have some sense of who those people are. And I'm not trying to dox them. I don't know their names. I don't know, anything specific about them. We would just like to have some basic information about, are they retired? Are they, do they work at a school? What? So that meant taking notes on everybody just in case, whoever ends up on it. So that made Wednesday super, super busy. And then along the way, there were a couple of bombshells. Just the first day, I realized that Sean Hawley was showing up.
Right.
And, she had joined Danny's team in fall of 21, I think.
That's
And
what you,
then when they fired Mesro, she seemed to be the lead with Cohen. And but then going into the first trial, she couldn't make it. She was involved in this secret arbitration over former Dodgers pitcher Trevor Bauer. So we never saw her in the first trial. But
right.
there were at least once I went to the court clerk, maybe twice, and said to him, "Is Sean Hawley still listed on the team?" And he would tell me yes. So even though we never saw her in the first trial, she was still officially on the team.
Mm-hmm.
So now she was there that first day. I thought that was a big deal. Aaron Goldstein is no longer to be seen.
Right.
And then later in the week, they made it clear to Judge Olmedo that their co-counsel, there is not a lead. It is both Cohen and Sean Hawley.
Right.
So that was interesting.
Of course, that also, I mean, just to think out loud for a second, that also means that she very well could have been maybe not in the courtroom, but advising during the first trial.
I'm sure
hours and
she knows the
stuff.
case well. I'm
Yeah.
sure she was keeping up on it in some way. But it'll be interesting to see how they divide up duties.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know about anything official,
Yeah.
so we'll see how that goes. But it was definitely Cohen doing voir dire, and Sean Hawley was just sitting at the table. The other big bombshell on the first day was Cohen mentioned their defense witness list, so I asked for it. I actually kind of spoke up during court, which I'm not technically supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Judge Olmedo, Mr. Cohen mentioned the defense witness list. Can I have a copy? But I was there as pool reporter. I was representing the reporters. I think us reporters were entitled to it, and she said yes. So we got it, and there was the surprise that on the prosecution side this time they get to have Claire Headley testify as a Scientology witness. So the defense has added Claire's stepfather,
Right.
an OTA Scientologist named Hugh Martin Witt, who has been disconnected from her for years and years. So that was crazy.
Yeah. Really, really silly, I think. I mean, because it's going to, I don't know. I guess I shouldn't assume what effect that's going to have on the jury, but the more I think about it, the more I think how theatrical, how lame, if he's called or if he shows up or if he's just, as you guys were talking about in your podcast this week, or if he's just sitting in the courtroom while Claire's testifying just for the intimidation factor. Really? Like,
I don't
I don't
know. I
know.
don't
I
know.
don't know.
It's the only thing is that, I mean, I have a feeling he's not going to be called.
Uh-huh.
But let me ask you: is doesn't this pretty much cement the fact that David Miscavige is still calling some of the shots, at least in the Masterson defense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And because it's such a Miscavige move.
It is.
It's such a Scientology move to make, you know? Absolutely. I don't think that's something that Sean Hawley thought up.
Right. And then the second day, I overheard Sean Hawley in a sidebar talking about a grand jury to the grand
Yeah.
jury, I should say the grand jury investigation of Scientology. This isn't the first time I've written about that. A year and a half ago, I reported that Mueller had brought Deputy DA Reinhold Mueller had brought in actual grand jury testimony of the attorney Marty Singer, and that's when they revealed in open court that a grand jury's been looking into Scientology and Masterson since at least 2018.
Wow.
So we knew that already. And apparently on Tuesday, Sean Hawley, besides the grand jury testimony from Marty Singer, they wanted the actual subpoena that I guess the prosecution side had given the grand jury to get that. And they were kind of fighting over that. And then in open court, the Judge Olmedo said she didn't think they were entitled to it, but she asked Mueller, is this proceeding still ongoing? And he said, yes, it is.
Right.
And I realized what I was witnessing was that they just confirmed in open court that the grand jury that started in 2018 is still going today, 5 years later.
Yeah, I have about a billion questions, which of course none of us have the answers to. But what, from your experience covering all this stuff, what is that 5 year grand jury? What does that tell you? Anything? Is there anything we can draw from that?
I mean, I've run into this idea before that the federal government is interested in doing something,
Uh-huh.
but they might be waiting to see how this trial concludes first.
Mm,
That may have some bearing on what they do if he's convicted or not.
right.
So that might be the most charitable interpretation, that the federal government is just sort of waiting for its turn, or that this grand jury, similarly, a county grand jury, is also waiting its turn to maybe indict some other people. Because, just based on the testimony we had in the last trial, there are so many instances of Scientologists abetting these, alleged crimes, covering them up,
Yep.
lying to law enforcement. I mean, that's the kind of thing you have a grand jury look into and decide whether to indict people or not. So I don't know. It's really interesting to hear that the grand jury is still working 5 years after they first started looking into it.
Yeah.
And then I got admonished by the judge. She said I shouldn't be reporting things that I overhear from the sidebar.
Right.
But I had a couple of reporters sticking up for me saying that she shouldn't have done that, it's an open court, it's a public court, and if I happen to hear something, there's nothing wrong with me reporting it.
Yeah.
So I take it seriously. It's a warning from the judge, and I'll keep that in mind. But I did want to get that news out to people because I felt that was pretty important.
I sure thought so. I thought that was actually probably one of the most important things we heard this week in the bigger picture of things. That's
Right.
that's big news in my world, and I was very happy to hear about that. And I happen to agree. I think you're completely safe in that you were in a room hearing words that were being said. If it was really that important, they need to take it into chambers. My opinion. But if they really don't want it heard, don't say it in the room with the
Right.
reporter. It's not like they didn't know you were there.
Right.
So anyway, I get it. I get both sides on that one. But anyway, how interesting. Well, week is up. Jury's selected. Schedule maintained. And yeah, Judge Olmedo was good enough to her word. She actually pulled it off, and it looks like this is happening. So Monday we have opening arguments. Yeah.
We have 7 women and 5 men on the jury. We have 4 men and 4 women on the alternates. Question I always get from people that are not maybe that familiar with our system of justice. Yes, the alternates sit with the regular jurors and hear all the same evidence. They're not kept somewhere else. And then if a juror needs to leave for whatever reason, the alternate that takes their place is up on everything because they've been hearing all the same evidence.
Right.
The only time it's an issue is if they've already started deliberations, the alternates are not part of deliberations. So if one of the jurors goes out during deliberations, and last time we had two go out for illness during the Thanksgiving break, then when you bring in alternates during deliberations, you have to start over from the beginning.
Right.
But otherwise, those alternates hear everything that everybody else does. So there'll be 20 people there, and I assume the gallery will be full this time, and lots of reporters, and we'll get opening statements. And last time, the opening statements were not overly long, and we actually got to the first witness that first day. We got to this. So my guess is that Monday we'll hear from Mueller for the prosecution. We'll probably hear from Cohen for the defense. Maybe we'll hear from Sean Hawley. I don't know. And then we'll probably get first witness. And last time it was Jane Doe 1. So this will be our first opportunity to see if the prosecution is going to change the order or, whatever. But last time, first witness was Jane Doe 1. And so there would probably be time the first day for her to begin direct examination with Mueller. So, get ready. It's grim. It's just, I really feel for these women. This is the third time they will be getting up on the witness stand to tell these stories, and they're not fun.
No, they are not. And none of it is fun as far as that goes. One other sort of thing I want to throw out there for people, just because this is my thing, is, this is celebrity media. This is media in general, I suppose. But really, I'm kind of thinking about the celebrity media aspect of this. Watch the reporting carefully. Read with a critical eye. Right? Tony's on the ground. His reporting is pretty damn thorough, and I pretty much am sticking with that. Because twists and turns can get entered in by the time it hits social media, and I just wanted to kind of throw that out there based on what we've on history.
Well, and listen, I get stuff out quicker. I get stuff out at every break, and you can get the sense of what people have said right away. But the other journalists, they're very good, and you'll see really good coverage at Variety and the Wrap and Hollywood Reporter and Rolling Stone. Everybody's got reporters there, and those stories are very, very good. It's just that I'm doing more of a just flat out as much as I can of what everybody said at every break, morning break, lunch break, afternoon break, end of day. You get it within minutes of it being said. So sign up for free emails at tonyartega.substack.com. Those reports will come right to your own inbox the second I put them out. And then at the end of the day, I'll do a video of some little wrap up.
Awesome. Well, I'll definitely be watching closely this week. This is going to be a wild one. All right. So thank you very much, Tony, for coming around and chatting with me this week.
You bet. Thank you, Chris.
All right, guys out there, subscribe, like, share, etc., etc. Okay, and we will see you guys. Maybe something will happen midweek again this week. Otherwise, I will see you guys on Friday. And with that, bye-bye.